What I will say was a perfect show was WWE's Saturday night's main event and John Cena's last match. What made it a little less perfect, unfortunately, was the crowd at the end of the night. It is something that I am not a fan of at all. And I'm a fan of fans definitely letting their emotions heard and letting their fanhood be heard, and definitely booing Triple H, specifically when it comes to him being the face of the company and ticket prices and all the WrestleManias and locations that we don't like. Great. Let that be heard. But unfortunately, I think the fans in Washington, D.C. hurt this event, hurt John Cena's retirement, and kind of put a little bit of a stain on what I think was overall a perfect night, a perfect show. And I don't mean perfect as in the best wrestling. I'm not saying these were five-star classics, but I'm saying from a concise, packaged performance, a show that gave us what we wanted and delivered. And I think the fans ruined it in the sense of they were not happy with John Cena losing, which is fine. You don't have to be, a fan of that. Yeah. But kind of talking about, as we have in previous segments, about, realness versus fakeness. Booing John Cena losing wasn't booing Gunther beating him. It was booing that you didn't like the person who scripted the show, which immediately in the middle of this John Cena Gunther match, which was great, and in his last match ever, we're now booing and essentially making known that we don't like storyline and scripting and who's the booker and who has the pen, those kind of things, which I don't think have a spot in the show itself, right? Listen, you can say what you want about Vince McMahon and his improprieties, whether it's current or whether it's back in the day when people didn't want to unionize and things like that. But I think what would have hurt WrestleMania 3 or hurt any of these shows back in the day was booing Hulk Hogan because of his opinions on unionization or, things that are like take away from what we're seeing specifically. Boo Gunther because he's a bad guy and he won the match. But by booing and calling bullshit and calling, all the things against Triple H took away because, again, you're revealing that, you didn't like the result, not because of the actual performance, but because of backstage politics, as well as the fact that I am very much in belief that this is probably how John Cena was okay with going out. I don't think this was a Bret Hart situation, right? So this is, you're booing essentially something that John Cena signed off on, and now you're making maybe him have regrets because you're essentially also booing him. He made this decision. He decided to do this.
I mean,
so you're like saying, boo, you should,
Well, here's the thing too. There's reports out there that John Cena is the one who helped put this show together because he wanted to showcase the newer talent like a Sol Ruca and an Oba Femi. Here's the thing. I'll say this. I think a lot of wrestling fans don't really understand the history of the wrestling business, where when one legend is going to retire and they're in their last match, they're going to lose. They're going to put their boots or their shoes or whatever in the ring, the armbands, all the whole thing, and they're going to pass the torch to the next generation. And in this case, it was Gunther.
And this wasn't even really a secret. That's why I guess is the kind of the thing too.
But here's the thing though, but people believed it. Like I listen to different wrestling podcasts, and there's people that are quote unquote like insiders that are like, John Cena's going to go on first. Like that was one of the things. And then they also were like, I think John Cena should win the match. Like, here's the thing. Like, and people argue like, oh, well, Sting won his last match. But who the hell in AEW should be getting put over at that point? Because let's be honest, there wasn't anybody worthy enough to, for Sting to put over.
That's fine with Sting. I'm not saying that every situation has to be the same, right? We can have unique situations. Sometimes they can win in their last match,
but there was nobody in Sting's case though. There was nobody worthy of being put over. In this case, John Cena put over a generational talent. Like Gunther he's going to carry the torch for the next 10, 15 years. And then I hope Gunther does the exact same thing to somebody who's a kid right now that's maybe in high school that's watching this and saw John Cena and wants to be the next John Cena. I want to beat Gunther. Like to me, that's the way it's supposed to be done. That's the way it should be done. And I thought WWE executed that very well. Kudos to John Cena and Gunther for putting on a great match.
The longest match in Saturday Night's Main Event's history, which is strange to think because they've had a lot of
all the other matches under 10 minutes.
Well, I mean, I don't mean on the night. I mean, period. The longest match in history of the program, which is strange thing. Listen, take away Gunther and put someone else in there. Take away that this show has implications going forward, meaning Gunther going forward against future opponents. Take that all away and just have it as its standalone show. I think that I'm perfectly fine with John Cena losing to anyone, winning against anyone. The idea, I think, of this show was not to see John Cena win, was not to see John Cena lose, was not any of that. It's to see just John Cena perform one last time. So I think when the result was over, you can be like, oh, he lost. But that's really, you weren't there to see him win. You weren't there to see him lose. You were just there to see him perform. So
by the way, speaking of the performance, I don't mean to cut you off. The part that I loved most about that match, like obviously there was that back and forth, and Cena should have been out and tapped out numerous times. Before Gunther finally got into tap, did you not see the way Cena looked into the camera and like smiled and stuff and then tapped out? Like that's theater. Like we just talked about it, earlier in the pod here tonight. It's theater. It's to me, it's a live performance. And Cena, it's like Cena knows, like, all right, the end is here. I'm going out on my sword. And he went out so well. It was, to me, well done. I think it was a great finish. I think the ones that are complaining should go back and maybe study up on the history of wrestling, because all of the greats have done it. Undertaker's done it. They put the boots in the ring and it symbolizes my in-ring career is over.
Yeah. And I just don't know whether John Cena won or whether John Cena lost. I mean, I would have taken away the same. I don't think it would have made Gunther look bad, I guess, if he lost. Obviously, it makes him look better, and he can
here's the thing, though. If you're a fan of John Cena, like everyone, all these people are booing about it. If you're a fan of him, how did you not know this was going to happen? This is John Cena, has John Cena written all over it. John Cena has always been a guy that says, hey, I want to leave the business better than I found it. And that's what he is doing. Everything that John Cena stands for should tell you Gunther or whoever, who could have been Braun Breaker for all I care. Whoever he was going to put in that last match, he was going to make them look good and give them the torch and let them carry WWE into the future and hopefully make it better than the way John Cena left it. That's the plan.
It's similar to if you were a player in sports or whatever, and they're playing their last game or whatever it is, right? When you get down to it at the end of the game, win or loss, because again, you're going in, it's a last game regardless, right? As soon as it's over, you start clapping and you start appreciating, right? That's it, right? When a baseball player comes up to bat for the last time in their career, people, they get on their feet, they cheer, right? After he strikes out or doesn't hit a home run, they cheer
Standing
as
ovation.
he walks back to the dugout, right? So when this match was over, you should have cheered. And I don't mean, in the same way you should have cheered is the same way you booed, because you booed not to boo Gunther, right? And in this sense, you should have cheered not to cheer Gunther. You cheer, that's it. And you're cheering, yes, exactly. So when the match was over, you can be stunned for maybe a second that it's over, that he lost. You were a little surprised. And then you stand up and just clap because you're clapping the overall performance.
Show the appreciation for everything he's done. Not only just that match, but the body of work that he
you think you're doing him a favor by making it so that after his match is over, it's now booing, which essentially you're booing him because he's part of that performance.
Yeah.
So now he feels like he's also part of not leaving the fans the best because, oh crap, this is my last match and everyone's upset. Everyone's mad. Everyone's booing. I'm in the ring. They're booing towards me. They don't know.
By the way, though,
boo
kudos
for
to
me
Triple H
on my behalf.
Hey, kudos to Triple H, though. because he's like, "Oh, is that all you got?" Like,
Well, but again,
that was good.
that
I
makes
like
it
that.
kind of like, again, more when he comes out and then they're like booing and he starts to smile. Again, it kind of taints this whole thing of taking the attention away from John Cena. I think this show was perfect because every match was perfect in the sense of you had Sol Ruca with a big win, didn't hurt Bailey, right? You had the match between Cody and Oba where it didn't hurt anybody. You got Drew McIntyre and can kind of forward that, but at the same time, Oba still looks good. Cody still looks good. No one got hurt. No one essentially looked lesser than. You had a tag team match where everyone just tore it up. You obviously had the tag titles defended, but either way, it made the other tag guys look great. Leon Slater, and Javon Evans and Leon Slater now the number one contender for Obafemi's title over on NXT. So good for him. And then obviously you have the main event. The main event was good. It did a little bit of everything. Everyone got, to see a good lengthy match where everyone got stuff in.
Start to finish, well executed.
Yeah, it was a concise show. Yes, you're going to have commercials in there, but there's no wasted nothing, like boring spots, like matches that don't belong. They had the segment with R-Truth, which was great because you have a segment that fits in. It fit in perfectly. So it wasn't just match, but then you have that kind of intermission segment for, fans as well to kind of see and laugh and have a good time with. So I think overall it was executed perfectly. It stinks that it kind of had to have what it did. And I think where it really hurts is because you immediately then have to pull the curtain back. What I mean by that is you're enjoying the performance, you're believing in wrestling, because again, while you're in the moment, for it to matter and for you to care, you have to believe in it in the moment, right? We all know about the scripted fake nature of wrestling, but when we're watching the match in the moment and we're in it, just like when you watch a TV show, we all know it's a movie, but for it to work, you have to care about the character. You have to think he really died when he got shot with a gun. When he gets thrown off the building, you have to really believe he got thrown off the building. In that moment, you have to feel like you're watching realism and that you're getting, you're becoming one with the product. So for them to boo made it so that right away you're peeling the curtain back, because Triple H on the post show, right, has to talk about how this is part of the story and the time-honored traditions, things he shouldn't be talking about, the backstage stuff, the behind-the-scenes stuff, the things that reveal the business stuff he shouldn't be talking about. He should just be talking about John Cena and how great he is, and Gunther and how great he was. That's what we should have been talking about. Gunther should have been spending the next couple days leading up to Monday Night Raw hyping himself up as a man who beat John Cena and is using it just like Brock Lesnar did against The Undertaker, right? We didn't hear about all of this stuff with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar hyped himself up and was able to, in interviews, and talk about he was the man who beat The Undertaker. This week, we haven't heard a lot about Gunther beating John Cena in the sense of Gunther being better than John Cena. It's all about, well, Gunther was picked and written in, and John Cena was scripted to lose. And it takes away from giving Gunther the accolades. It's similar to the Blake Monroe thing and the Thea Hale thing that we talked about briefly with the botch at NXT. We're taking away from Thea Hale being the new NXT champion and talking more about Blake Monroe and her mess up instead of celebrating, instead of saying Gunther's a real force. On that post show, no one was like talking about how hard it is to beat Gunther. They were talking about like, well, who was the result? Who picked this? Was this John's idea? Was it Triple H's idea? No. Like, you got to believe that Gunther beat John Cena. That's what you got to believe. For Gunther to be the hot heel he is, and right now he's doing great. Monday Night Raw, he followed it up amazingly.
Well done.
Saturday night main event. So to believe that, he's got to come out and say, yeah, no, I didn't get picked to beat John Cena. I beat John Cena. The behind-the-scenes stuff and the television stuff shouldn't mix in that way because, again, it's hard to mix and it shouldn't mix. So we should be celebrating essentially a great career for John Cena and be, essentially impressed by Gunther for beating John Cena, as now he's beaten him and and Goldberg all in the same year on their retirement tour. And I think it's going to do great things for him in his current position.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Gunther handled it well. I think it was that Raw promo to start the show. That was A+. Like, that was A+. It was great because he every time he'd walk to the ramp, he took another step. Then he went back to the ring. Then he came back out and took another step further. He got on the table a few times. It was I think that's the way you get yourself over even more, because he let the fans kind of just set up the promo really well. He didn't have to say very much. He said a lot of the same stuff, pretty much making Cena tap out, as Joe Tessitore said, like a bee. He didn't want to say the complete word there, but it was. I thought it was well done, well executed. Gunther was I think, in my opinion, probably the right guy for John Cena to face in his last match, given the current state of the roster, because I think the point of John Cena is he wanted to leave the business better than he found it.
And that's why, looking back on it, we obviously saw Randy Orton, CM Punk, all these matches for John Cena along the way against these big stars. But now looking back at it, I think that was the best last match. I think that was better than if he faced Randy Orton or any of the other people, because again, that it put the focus on John Cena himself on his night, and then not just got to put over Gunther, but again, it just felt right that he's going to go out within the current landscape of the WWE, that this isn't just a Dream Team tour against other part-timers.
Well, and here's the thing.
I think this is better than if he went out against Edge. I'd like to see him face Edge or Jericho, sure, along the way.
That would have been cool.
But I think for his last match, I think it was better in his last match that he wasn't facing another part-timer, another veteran.
Yeah, you're
facing someone on the current roster.
Yeah, you're facing somebody on the current roster, and it's not like, okay, let's be honest, Randy Orton or CM Punk don't need that John Cena rub. You know what I mean? Like, they don't need it. They're established. This is perfect. Gunther, let's be honest, Gunther really doesn't need the rub, but it doesn't hurt to pass the torch from a John Cena.
The whole point of this tour was for John Cena to be a full-time member of the WWE one last time, not to just be a part-timer as he's been many years before that. So for him to end the year like in a match against a current full-time wrestler, not just a Dream Team match, along the way, is, I think, the best way for him to go out, kind of, like I said, kind of mix and assimilate himself into the regular roster. Because a lot of people, too, were probably watching John Cena's last match, these celebrities and other people, because he's a big deal, right? So it kind of, again, gets them a little bit into the product, because fortunately for the WWE, they were exposed to a lot of what the WWE currently has to offer, when it comes to the NXT talent, as well as the man he's facing. It's good that a lot of people probably in the arena, as well as on TV, had to explain who John Cena was facing, because, again, that shows you that, again, he's blending into the current product to finish his way out, instead of just being a standalone, like, I don't watch WWE, and if I watch John Cena, I really don't have to watch WWE, because he's always going to kind of do his own thing. He's going to be doing his own thing against Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker, their own part-timers. It's good that, he assimilated himself into the product. So in order to watch John Cena's last match, you really had to watch WWE.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. And again, it's to that point I've said a couple times already. It's passing the torch, and it's also like an Obafemi, a Sol Ruka, those names, for example, are getting the eyeballs they normally wouldn't get because John Cena is on the card. So I think I'll just keep saying it. I'll keep hammering this down. He wants to leave the business better than he left it. And if he's going to, and Sol Ruka got a rub from John Cena, Obafemi as well. Like these competitors all got a rub. I mean, Cody Rhodes doesn't really need it. For example, he doesn't really need it. But these NXT stars that come up, and Gunther, they all got that rub, and that's good for the business, because you're getting more eyeballs on people you haven't seen before, potentially. And this is maybe a chance that you can say, hey, I'm going to be an Obafemi guy now going forward, because I like the way he wrestled with Cody Rhodes. Or, hey, I'm going to be a big fan of Sol Ruka, because I like how she won against Bayley, who I know who Bayley is because she's been around a long time. Man, this girl's pretty good. So John Cena, kudos to him. Kudos to Gunther. Kudos to all the members on that show that participated. Great job overall. I'm you know what? For the first time in a long time, Saturday night's main event, start to finish, I give it an A+.